back to Serving Up Success with a Splash. As always, we're super happy that you're joining us. If you want to make sure you don't miss us, don't forget to like and subscribe. We always forget to say that, so I'm starting off with it today. I'm Angie Snowball, your host, with my other two wonderful co-hosts.
I am Dr. Nawtej Dosanjh, and I am kindly called the Strategy Coach, or the Strategy Doctor even.
And I'm Bruce Cramer, and you all know me as the Corporate Cockroach.
I love that so much. It gets me every week. We're like, 30 weeks in, and it still makes me giggle. Oh my gosh. All right. So today we are talking about something that has likely affected everyone or will affect everyone at some point in time, and that is changing careers. So sometimes you grow out of your current job. Maybe you just want something with more purpose. Your situation in life changes. You're ready to do something new. It's a very daunting thing to do. So we're going to talk today about different ways that you can know when it's time, prepare for the time, and be ready to make a career change, because all of us have done it. Hundreds of thousands of other people have done it, and you can do it too. So we are going to start quickly, of course, with our drink. It is the Snowball. Can you tell it was my turn to pick the drink? I was like, oh yay, I'm picking one named after me. But it is really unique. I didn't know it was such a thing either. So it's basically a vanilla vodka and lemonade and some sparkling water. It's really, really good. And the reason I chose it was because a snowball starts small, but with the right momentum, it grows into something unstoppable, just like your career. So Bruce, kick us off with how we know when it's time to pivot.
Oh boy. You had to come to me first. Well, there's a couple of things. I think what I'd like to do is kind of just in my, from personal experience, a little bit about how you know when it's time to pivot. There's usually a couple things that play in. First, this thing called burnout. And you really want to know, is it time to move on because you're just feeling drained? You're literally exhausted. You're somewhat of a cynic in the workplace. And, it's just like, this just isn't doing it for me. Or are you starting to realize or clarify where your passion is? You're starting to get excited about maybe doing something different. And that's quite a different reason for moving on than just, God, I've had it. And so you really want to understand why it is you're feeling you need to move on. The other thing is that you don't just want to be running away from something, because then you're just going to end up elsewhere in the same circumstances. You want to know that you're going somewhere. You're not running from something. You're going towards something that's of much importance to you. The other thing is you don't want to chase titles. What you want to do is have better alignment with your passion and your skills. And I would also add your values. But if you really align your passion and skills to a particular need in the marketplace or a need of some organization, if those three things aligned, as I said in an earlier episode, you cannot fail. Passion, skill, and needs, when those are aligned in society, at a workplace, you can't fail. So those are just a couple of things in the background. But now I'm going to ask some questions of my co-hosts. So let me start with you, Dr. D. Is he not looking spiffy tonight in his sport? I just got to say.
I just thought I'd try something. I just thought I'd try something new and see if you guys would comment. And it's taken you almost 5 minutes into the show to talk about my attire.
Well, I just realized I look like a hobo next to you and Angie. But anyways, how did what triggered you to move on in your career? Because you've had many gigs and you've had, opportunities to grow and responsibility. But what motivated you to move on?
So I'd say, Bruce, early in my career, dissatisfaction in my very early career, dissatisfaction, but and later in my career, just growth and opportunity. And I didn't really classify it as moving on or moving. I just classified it as moving forward and growing. Um, that's how I characterized it. But I want to come back to this early point in my career where I was dissatisfied and I made the mistake um, that you outlined. There's no point running from something just because you'll make a mistake. So that's what I did. I made a mistake in my early career, and so I lost a few years, um, and then had to sort of pivot and play catch up a little bit. So I suppose in answer to your question, there were two things. Just to recap, the first phase was just dissatisfaction, and later I don't know that I was. Oh yeah, of course I was moving on, but I don't know that I consciously thought I was moving on. I was just growing and having fun and having a magical life, and thanking God that I was having this life. So unlike the early part of my career.
Wow. Angie, what about you? Because you've had major change as well throughout your career.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of picking up the rear here, as in I didn't do it on purpose. So things learned the
What do
hard
you
way.
mean?
Well, I think
Explain.
like it's because I didn't do what Bruce said. I was the person. So I started out in corporate land mostly by default because I started out as an actress, decided I didn't want to be poor and starving the rest of my life. And the next option was to start in at Procter and Gamble, like all good Cincinnatians do. So I kind of fell into that and went down the road. We talk about golden handcuffs. It's kind of what, for me, that's what that was, because I am not a corporate personality type. My personality just doesn't fit there. And in some ways, it's what did help me do well there because I was different and I was innovative and I did. But in other ways, it took me too long to find out it's golden handcuffs. I'm not happy here. This is not the way I do things. And so I think I've had combinations. I had those things like, this is it. I can't take another day of this or that person or whatever. But one of the things that held me back from doing what I really wanted to do was not believing I would be able to, not having the skills and thinking, and everybody can laugh at this, but I mean, I'd be 30 years old and thinking it was too late to upskill, to change my career path, and who knew at 50 I was really going to change it, but at the time that scared me. I was like, I can't change to do something I really want to do because I'm a single mom. The bills are being paid here. I'm making money. I'm not doing bad. I just hate it. And if I really want to do what I want to do, how am I going to do that? How am I going to find the skills and the network and everything to do that? So looking back, I know that was stupid, and that's why we're doing this episode. So you don't have to do stupid shit like we did. But yeah, that was kind of my story of changing. Was a lot of change was because I'd had it, but I didn't do what Bruce said. Why have I had it? And then sometimes I did start to think, well, this is what I want to do. And then fear overtook me. I'll never be able to do that because I don't have this degree. Or I don't have this. I don't have that. So that was it for me.
Yeah. I think the
Bruce,
only thing,
Bruce, I just wonder, can you? I know you stayed at Granger all your life. Can you just sort of give us a lowdown of your career in this
yeah.
because you pivoted within Granger, right? So
Yeah.
give us a
I was
lowdown of your highs and lows.
Yeah, so let me start on the plus side of that balance sheet. One, Granger is a great organization, and I keep advertising them in this show. They're just they did a great job in my development, as well as many that came up when I did within the organization, of really trying to understand where your passion was, where your skills were, and then marrying them to the needs of the organization. So somebody once said, how the hell did you stay at a place for 42 years? Didn't you get bored? Absolutely not, because the organization very strategically moved me around based on what I was good at and where my passion was. So I didn't stay in any one position for more than, maybe 2 to 3 years, maybe
Yeah.
4 tops.
Mm.
And I was constantly given new challenges. Now, on the minus side of that balance sheet is I realized I was there for 42 years. They probably would have said he overstayed his welcome. But, it was just a great career. And also financially, it was second to none. And so I got too comfortable. And what I underestimated, because after 42 years, then I did get into consulting. And if y'all know now, I'm into coaching. I had no idea of the world outside. And for somebody that liked to learn, Granger fed that in me, gave me those opportunities. But hindsight being 2020, you really get an opportunity to expand and fly, if you will, when you get outside of that comfort zone. So that was probably the only negative was Bruce just staying on too long. But
I think that's a
so that,
I think that's a minor negative. I think there
it
are
was.
a lot of positives there. I think I think we know about your career, and I think you had a great career, and that's a very, very minor thing.
Yeah, I have. Like I said, it's been wonderful.
Yeah.
So, Dr. D, with your changes and your career, did you ever have to? I know you had to at some point, but upskill, get new skills or get different degrees? Because how did you go straight through and get your doctorate? What was your path with that?
Yeah, no, I did not. Great question. I went and did my undergrad straight away when I was 18. And then I did my master's 20 years later. And then I did my doctorate 10 years later after my. So no, I did not do that. I was building skills. And that, I suppose that brings us nicely to this second segment, right? About, how do you build your bridge rather than burning bridges, right? And I sort of I'm thinking of 3 or 4 ways that you can do that. And then fair warning, Angie, I've got a question for you. Following this, Angie's on the hook this week, Bruce. So I think you've nailed one of them, and that's really building skills. And building skills, but also, if you can, using the existing skills to transfer skills. And I think never has it been more appropriate and does the market is open to this than transferable skills. 40 years ago, I think it was difficult. When we were starting out, Bruce, I think it was difficult to transfer skills. But now, I don't think it's difficult at all. I think it's become the norm to transfer skills. So really think about the skills that you're building and how you're transferring them. But then I'm going to come on to two other factors. I think the first is it's a heavy lift, as Angie found out, to do something which you don't like. You're not going to do it for 40 years. None of us are. And if you are, it's going to be demoralizing and it's going to verge into being repugnant. So try and focus on, as Bruce said and Angie said, try and focus on what do you love and see if you can capture a market out of that, capture a job out of that, capture a segment, a high-paying segment out of that, but capture that. And the third thing, I think this may come to a surprise to you two, but there were times when I did work and I didn't ask to be paid. I did work which was super interesting with super interesting people. You remember my motto, Bruce, from when we first met? All I want is I want to do interesting things with interesting people. If I get to do interesting things with interesting people, I'm really happy.
Bruce, that's awesome. We checked the list.
And yeah, you guys, you check the list very, very quick, Angie. So now you deserve your question. So the question is that, so these are broad 10,000 feet things that I've talked about. But Angie, you being the sort of LinkedIn social media queen or king. How do you use LinkedIn to sort of build a bridge to a new story or expand your own story? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think that's where people are really missing the boat on LinkedIn. They either don't, they only use it because when they're ready to find a job, or they have a job that they're now in sales and they want to prospect people. The real benefit of LinkedIn is that if you're telling your story every day, you're constantly preparing yourself for your next position, whether you know it or not. So, like, if
Okay.
maybe you
Yeah.
never think you're leaving. I have a lot of friends at Procter and Gamble that fully intended on being lifers, and a lot of things switch around, and it's not always your choice, or they give you this lovely package that you just can't turn down, right? So, and those people are like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. They have no network. They have no leads. They have no anything. So using LinkedIn, you can, even if you're in a job you think you're going to be in forever, share the things that you know. Tell stories about your successes, because people will know who you are, so that if you do need to leave, you'll have people, somebody. Because one thing I learned quickly at work, being someone who was underskilled, I mean, I was an actress and I ended up being a project manager. So talk about underskilled. What I learned is that most of the stuff you learn on the job. Every company has their own way of doing things, and they're going to train you to what they want to do anyway. The reason you get jobs is because people like you. People know that you work hard. People respect that you get results, and you do that by building a network. And LinkedIn, that's what it's all about, building a
Right.
network. So I think you should always get out there and have a nice profile. Even if you're afraid to post, make sure you're there. You don't have this big empty space, because also headhunters and recruiters are going after people all the time. You don't know. Maybe you're not looking for an open door, but somebody is going to open the greatest door of your life because they saw you on LinkedIn. They saw what you can do. They saw your personality and said, that's the guy I want. That's the woman that's going to be our next CMO. She's perfect for this. And then you're in a great spot, right? You're in the driver's seat. You're not looking for a job. They're looking for you. So I think that's why we should all be telling our stories on LinkedIn at all times, because you just never know when things are going to switch for you, especially now. AI is coming in, changing the way jobs work, everybody's restructuring. There's so much going on. And if you're keeping your LinkedIn up to date, telling people you are, meeting new people, connecting with HR people and companies outside of yours, brilliant. Because when you're ready, they've been watching you, they've been seeing you. You're not a surprise to them. You're not just another resume in the pile. You can talk to them. You can chat directly with them. Hey, we connected a few years ago and I saw this position. I'm really interested. What's the best way to apply and get in touch with the right people? I mean, that's great, right? I mean, that's like knowing the hiring manager. So that's why I think everybody should be using LinkedIn. Also, because I did do it that way. And again, found out that's a big mistake.
What really struck me there, it really hit home, and I just hadn't thought about it. If you're building your profile, you're rehearsing every day for a conversation. Yeah, that really hit home. That's
Yeah.
absolutely.
And having a good network can help you with your current job too. It doesn't mean that you're looking. Like other people, like, what if my boss finds out? What if your boss finds out that you're telling people what an awesome job you did for your company? I think he'd be happy about it. So they're not exclusive things. Telling people about what you and your team did for your company is good for your company, and it's good for you. So why not do that?
Great points, Angie. I've got to suddenly, Bruce. I'm changing tack into coming to you, because what's occurred to me is, what if just because thinking about Angie's LinkedIn and networking in your career, you must have come across people who were transitioning too fast, not growing, not getting enough experience, but transitioning too fast. Am I right or am I wrong? Can you transition too fast, particularly at a young age?
Absolutely. And, I saw firsthand people with good intent, but because they were transitioning so quickly, they fell like a ton of bricks.
Right.
And so, we mentioned that there were people I knew that were chasing titles, not necessarily their passion or aligned well with the skills that were needed. And you know, and it's weird because as I was listening to you guys talk, and by the way, that's why we went out and got help from Angie.
Yeah,
Angie and I.
especially.
It's you know, one of the things that I underestimated that was such a gift by being 42 years at Granger is that what we're getting at here is you have to kind of plan how you're going to bridge to your next opportunity. I mean, it takes some planning, and two big parts of that are financial and network. And one of the things that, as I started to transition, unlike people coming in and out of Granger, or I have friends that have served in fairly significant roles, but for short stints because it just wasn't a good fit. So they were coming and going from different organizations where I was able to build, due to the way in which Granger rewarded their employees financially, taking the long way around the block was very lucrative in terms of their, at the time, profit sharing and things like that. So when I did finally start to realize, you know, after 42 years, I started to let just strictly my passion govern me. But by then, I've built a network second to none. I had the financial wherewithal. So just like you, Dr. D, following my heart, I got into charitable work, co-founded an organization that did large scale events. I I didn't make any money, but boy, did it feel good. But one of the things between the people fast tracking, coming and going, you know, the rotating door in a corporate America, and those following there has to be a happy medium. You can't work for free forever. Um,
No.
and so
Yeah.
what I realized, and it's interesting, Angie, is like putting a project plan together. So I
Yeah.
stepped back after I dabbled in the nonprofits and had a bunch of fun, met real interesting people. I started to realize, okay, now I got to set goals. I got to have milestones. I need to understand what the risks are, and literally started building out a plan that kind of led me to where I am today in my coaching practice. And then also meeting you two and us developing Serving Up Success with a Splash. And
I've
it's
got
the
to say,
perfect,
Bruce, I've got to cut across you. I
yeah.
think meeting Angie and me has been the greatest, best endeavor and pinnacle of your career and actual life.
Greatest thing you ever did.
It's just, we
I,
are the
I'm not
pinnacle of your
denying
life.
but it hit all of my values and my passion. I'm learning more from you two than I've learned in ages, and also the
That's
different things
nice.
we're doing, like these podcasts. But it
Yeah.
also gives to my passion. It's a chance for me to give back. I mean, after
Yeah.
42 years, I could teach you what not to do.
The same. And
Yeah.
something you brought up, Bruce, that I think is really, really key, because the reality is money makes the world go round. And you can't just say, gosh, I would love to be a lifeguard at 60 and leave your job that's, making six figures and whatnot. So I once heard that for every $10,000, you'll need 1 month. You should count on 1 month to find a new job, so that you should always keep that amount of money as a disposable savings in addition to whatever, so that if you do ever want to change, that you are comfortable and that you're not panicked and you have time and a plan to make that change. Have you guys heard that number, or is there another number, something that you would recommend for people?
I haven't heard of that. I haven't heard of that number, but I'd love it if the number was bigger and there were crates of champagne involved as well.
But but here's the thing, and it's obvious now after all these years. For those that chase the titles and cash, their success is short lived.
Yeah,
And even though they may experience, remember our diamond mapping where you had your financials, your relationships, your health, those people are never well balanced. You will be hard pressed to think of somebody that has chased job titles and cash all their life. May have made a lot of cash. They may have been in the C-suite multiple times. But look at their overall life if that was their driving force. It sucks.
Yeah, they're not going to hit
You
the
know,
diamond. They're going to have like a nice oscillating
now,
triangle in there.
if you chase your passion and ensure your values stay intact and then get clarity, hold yourself accountable, the cash will come. The cash will come. So to your point, Angie, I'm not poo-pooing you. You know, the world isn't
No.
free. But if your target is cash and titles, you will have success. But I almost want to say in this show, you won't have happiness. You won't
Yeah.
have balance. Whereas if you chase your passion and apply, really understand and hone your skills and work hard and stay, that clarity, you will get the cash and you will have a great life.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're saying the same thing. Like you have to do it. So get yourself financially in a place that you can do it so that it's realistic. You can't just leave your job if you're working paycheck to paycheck, but you're never going to be successful if you don't make that change. And then another thing that we need to talk about is definitely like the upskilling. And that's a whole different world than it was even 10 years ago, right? Like when I first left corporate, I became an English teacher. So I had to get a certification and I actually got my master's degree at that point because I felt like I needed that to be able to do this. And that was an obvious one. But in marketing, where I am now, there isn't a university that teaches it fast enough. It changes day by day. So I have to rely on different webinars by well-known people and AI and stuff to keep us up to date, to make sure we're using the best things. And Dr. D, you have a university that is creating whole different type of degree than what we're used to. Your university is cutting edge, keeping up, AI for certain industries and whatnot. What other things like that would you recommend for people to help them upskill?
Angie, great question, and you've flummoxed me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ramble for a few seconds while I think of a reply. so, I think there are two skills. That was just a joke. I think there are two things, and I'm going to separate it into hard skills and soft skills. So the hard skills are stay on top of hard skills like AI, like cybersecurity, like technology generally, in relation to your field of passion. So don't spread yourself thin because you don't want to go wide but not deep enough. But don't forget, we've done it before on this show. We're going to do it again. Don't forget the soft skills. Don't forget your behavioral competencies, communication skills, empathy, working in teams.
Talk about
Don't forget that,
transferable.
and stay on top of developing those skills too. I think that's a great question. I have a question back to you now, which is slightly different. Back to both of you, really. And that's
Bruce doing over there? He's rocking and rolling.
rock and roll in the background, but that's okay.
Bruce got bored. He's like, I'm just going to listen.
Yeah, Angie and Natwej, oh my God, honestly. Put the radio on. I'm so bored with their conversation.
You can't hear that now, can you?
It used to be so interesting, and now they're honestly. So, but look, I want to get this clear because I've had this question. I don't want the show to end before I get this question. So, you're staying on top of your skills. You're staying on top of you're transitioning with a plan. You're using LinkedIn. You're doing all these things. Okay. What if, like much of the population, you have imposter syndrome? How do you manage that? How do you manage that, Angie? How do you manage that, Angie?
Oh, it's funny because I think at one point in time, I was working with a good business coach, right? Everybody's good in their own ways. But he kind of gave me the impression that I knew I had it, like that he was the one who identified it for me. But I was under the impression that like it was a thing, a hurdle I had to jump and then I would be good. What I've
Yeah,
learned is that every time I jump, there's a new imposter hurdle to be jumped.
yeah.
So
Mm,
I do think it's a and I made that mistake. Like I jumped that hurdle and I was like, what the hell is this? This is supposed to be done. I'm supposed to be better. So that's when I stepped back and I actually, and I've talked about it before, I'm very open about the fact that I have a therapist that I work with. And yeah, I'm crazy. Yeah, that's one reason. But really to help me build these tools, right? Because I
yeah.
didn't grow up with these tools to believe in myself, to believe I could do these things. I grew up with limitations. And when I did do things, people looked at me like, why are you doing that? So
Mm,
for me, I had to get extra help. And I think that can be a business coach because a lot of business coach do function as that support system and team to make
yeah.
you realize, yes, you are skilled. Yes, you have everything you need to do this. But that's important to avoid imposter syndrome is to find the right support system to give you the tools to do it. Because now I know every time I jump, like, all right, I'm good enough at this. What's coming next? I'm ready. You know,
Yeah.
what don't I know now? Let's go to the next one. And I know it's coming. So once again,
Mm,
back to awareness, action, and accountability. It starts with the awareness. I know it's coming. Imposter syndrome will never go away. It will just change. It will be something
mm.
different. And in some ways, I think that's a good thing because otherwise, you're an arrogant beep beep beep, and nobody really wants to be around you,
I
right?
think
So,
that's right. I
but
think that's right. On the other end of the continuum to extreme imposter syndrome is extreme arrogance. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
totally. Uh, And so, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna ask Bruce. So he, well, he just had a different type because I'm sure people listen to our show, Life, Career, Business, and all different things. So my changes were more about getting out of the corporate world. Dr. D's been in academia and leveling up to do different things to actually owning it, creating it, founding it. And Bruce stayed in that corporate world, and there's a lot of people that are in that boat. So for somebody that wants to stay in the corporate world and level up there, what would be your
Mm.
advice for them to not, we know we can't chase titles and money, but what would be your advice to help them find a place that they really want to be and achieve the levels they want?
Well, again, they have to have that clarity in life. Well, let me actually. You just made me think of something. Don't get comfortable.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
That in all of this.
I think if I was guilty, and again, I've had a great career in life, so I'm not anything that happened to Bruce was because of me, but I did get comfortable. I
Mm.
mean, you get to a point, and then it's like a second cousin of the imposter syndrome. You stop thinking about what the possibilities are because it's like, God, I got it pretty good. And
Mm.
so when you're in
Yeah.
corporate America, if you get too comfortable, you're going to get replaced because things are changing constantly, and you if you surround yourself with people like, God, you got it made, you pick up the kids at night at this, you got this routine, your life is sailing, you're financially sound, you've got good health, all the things that not everybody's blessed with, you can get comfortable. And it's like, I'm trying to think of the parable where the frog's in the frying pan, and if you turn the heat up slowly, you
Oh
don't
yeah,
know you're
you
being
boil it.
boiled.
Yeah.
Whereas
I don't
you
think it's the
jump in.
Bible version. I
I'm,
don't think,
I'm
I
trying
don't
to
think
think
that's
of
the
that,
parable in the Bible.
but that's what happens in a large corporation is you wake up one day and realize, oh shit, I'm outdated. Or boy, can I easily be replaced because you
Mm.
just got comfortable. Surround yourself with people that encourage you to have courage to strive, to get better day in and day out, and really understand what ultimately, if you could wave the magic wand, where do you want to be and go after it.
I just love that answer, Bruce, and I love your energy. But as usual, you two are not bothering watching the clock. I'm
I
having to
know,
do
I just
the heavy
don't.
lifting. I'm having to bring you back and say, okay, guys, we're running out of time. What's our key takeaway? Because you two haven't bothered watching the clock. So So, Angie, what is your key takeaway for the week?
Well, I think I was watching the clock, so I did want to wrap it up too, because we did a lot of things, including then we'll do key takeaways. But I did want to say, like, first of all, when you want to make a career jump, we got to start with what Bruce says. Think about why. Think about where you really want to go and plan that out. Make sure that you have it like a project plan in place, that you're always telling your story, nothing last minute. Make sure that you're financially okay, you got some place so that if you jump, make sure you're always upskilling so that you're ready to. Tons of free resources to do that these days, right? And keep your network strong. So those are some things that we talked about that you should always do so that when you want to make a career jump, you're ready. Now, given all that and coming from 3 different places, my takeaway from this is definitely going to be the upskilling, because that's what held me back, imposter syndrome, for so long, was thinking I wasn't going to be able to learn this, or it was too late for me to do that. And it is never, ever too late to do any of this stuff. And especially now, we're in the golden time of upskilling, because there are so many free, inexpensive, very good resources for you to become almost anything you want to do. And even if it's something that you really need to intense, like nursing, whatever, it's never too late to do that. So don't let upskilling keep you back from doing what you really want to do. All right, Bruce, what's your takeaway?
Believe you're worth the risk.
Well, that's a good one.
I love that. Believe you're worth the risk, because I got to tell you, you are worth the risk. When you operate with that mindset, it'll be worth it.
Do you know, Bruce, I've got to say, I'm glad you carried on talking there, because what you said there was such a mic drop moment. I was thinking, oh, I've got to think of something to say now. So I thought, but then thank God you carried on talking. And then I had time to think of something, and I've rambled a little bit longer to just think of something. That's not true. That's not true. But I did love your answer. I think that's why I'm giving it attention as well. But to believe in yourself. I think my answer is what I said at the beginning. It's what I've always said. It's one of the first things I said to you, Bruce, when I first met you. Do interesting things with interesting people, and you'll have a great career. There's just no doubt about it that you'll have a great career.
Yeah. Yeah. And that all goes back to networking, right? Stay involved with interesting people that are going the same. His does the networking and the upskilling. If you're doing fun things with fun people, interesting people, you're learning and you're connecting every day. And that's going to be the real key to switching careers successfully, is having that right support.
Wow.
Listen, guys, great to see you again this week. I saw you yesterday and the day before, but great to see you on our YouTube channel.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe and the like buttons. Please subscribe.
Yes, they're very fun. And we have more cocktail recipes coming. So until then,
we have more topics, more cocktails. See you soon, guys.
Cheers.